250 years strong. Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, and fellow Americans, welcome to this joyful celebration of America's 250th birthday. On July the 2nd, 2 days ago, 1776, the Second Continental Congress voted for independence via the Lee Resolution. 2 days later, on July 4th, they adopted the Declaration. Primarily drafted by Thomas Jefferson with input from Adams, Franklin, and others, only John Hancock signed it that day. Most signatures came later in August. The document's famous opening, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness," was a radical break from the monarchy. It justified resolution by listing grievances against King George and asserted the right of the people to abolish destructive governments. This isn't just a birthday. It's the birth of an idea. Government derives power from the consent of the governed, not divine right. America 250 invites us to celebrate progress toward those ideas while acknowledging struggles to fully realize them. Key points to think about this evening. Thank you all for joining in the biggest birthday party I think our nation's having right now. Whether you're waving a flag, sharing a story of America and what it means to you, or you're just here for the cake, because I know Rebecca and a few of you are just for the cake. Thank you for celebrating with us. This is a continued journey from 13 colonies to a beacon of freedom for millions and the world. Each person here writes the next chapter of our nation's history. America 250 invites us to reflect on the past, honor all who contributed, and dream bigger for the future. So in closing with our opening remarks, let's eat, laugh, sing, and keep the spirit of 76 alive. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Rebecca Heacock, who is the host of the facility here that we're all at. So Rebecca, the floor is yours. And a few words about
Thank you all for coming. I mean, this is just an honor to have you all here to celebrate America 250 in my ancestral home. I mean, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so thank you so much for coming.
Stay standing. I didn't get a picture. Thank you.
All right, well now we'll move on to the blessing. If you would bow your heads and we'll uncover. Gracious God and Almighty Father, as we gather around this table for our America 250 meal, we give you thanks for the abundant food before us and for the hands that prepared it. We remember with gratitude the 250 years since our nation's founding, the courage of those who declared independence, the sacrifices that secured our liberties, and the providence that has guided this land through generations. Bless this meal, our families, and our communities. May it strengthen us to live out the ideas of liberty and justice for all, to cherish the freedoms we enjoy, and to build a brighter future for the next 250 years and beyond. Help us to be one nation, united in purpose, thankful for your almighty blessings, and committed to the good of all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
So we got us a regular camera production thing going on here. You'll hang on just a second as we get our technology guy to get everything all set up. Okay? As soon as he gives me the okay, then we'll get the program rolling. All good? Good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Your presence is very much appreciated here. I'm Kevin Alec. I'm the Patriotism Chair for the Colonel Alexander Erwin Chapter Sons of the American Revolution. And it's my pleasure to kind of welcome everybody to this 4th of July dinner at Captain Charles McDowell House. Thank you for choosing to celebrate America's birthday, 250th birthday, here with us in this historic Quaker Meadows home. As we honor the patriot heroes of our past who not only fought on the battlefields but also in the halls of Congress, to ensure that the future generations could enjoy the freedoms we have today. As our guests, we hope you will enjoy and participate with the special activities we have planned this evening for this once-in-a-time, lifetime event. Thank you again for coming, and we hope that the spirit of America will continue with us tonight and in the future.
All right, before we begin today, celebrated at 2 o'clock will be the ratification of the Declaration of Independence. So we will thank for each of the states. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina,
Huzzah.
South Carolina, and finally, Georgia. Now I'll introduce Bill Brown. Bill will take the opportunity to give us some direction of what was happening here in Burke County in 1775 and 1776.
I've got plenty of light. As soon as I get my spectacles on.
Okay, whoever ends up with the staff, you get to read the report.
You didn't get one.
Did you get one? Okay.
Did you get one? Oh, and there's one for you. I think it worked out.
Right, what was it like here in Burke County in July of 1776?
Hot.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, I don't know.
Hotter.
But while North Carolina delegates to the Continental Congress were debating on and ultimately voting for independence on July the 2nd, 1776, yes, that's right. Independence was voted on the 2nd of July. The Declaration of Independence itself was adopted and passed on July the 4th. But what were they doing here? What was going through the people's minds here, right here, in what would become Burke County? Because you know this was Rowan County in 1776. It would be until June of 77 that this became Burke. But what were they doing here in this area that would be Burke County? They weren't thinking about independence or the question of independence or what was being decided upon. Sure, they weren't thinking about that. What they were thinking about was survival. Beginning in the late spring and into the early summer of 1776, hostilities between the settlers along the frontier of North Carolina and the Cherokee were at a head. The British government, the key word is the government, was fully engaged with encouraging, supporting, and actively being involved with promoting the Cherokee attacks along the frontiers of North Carolina. And we here in Burke County were right in the middle of all of it. Beginning in late May and early June of 1776, Colonel Charles McDowell had called out the militia. Forts were being erected along the Catawba for the purpose of defense from the Cherokee threat. Then in early July, the attacks came. There were three specific events that occurred in July of 1776 that I want to highlight. On the 10th of July, the siege of the Quaker Meadows Fort. The 11th of July was the Battle of the Fork. And on the 13th of July was the relief of the Quaker Meadows Fort. Siege of Quaker Meadows Fort. And the Quaker Meadows Fort, to the best of my research, was located probably across from where Oak Hill Park and Forest is now on 126, where Canoe Creek crosses 126. Everything points to that was the location of the Quaker Meadows Fort. People like to call it McDowell Station. I can't find anything in primary source documentation that calls it McDowell Station. They always refer to that as the Quaker Meadows Fort. But in early July of '76, Cherokee, at the behest of the British, began attacking along the North Carolina frontier. In a letter to the North Carolina Council of Safety, Griffith Rutherford, who was the militia commander for the Salisbury District, provided a timeline that helps us affix the dates of the siege of Quaker Meadows Fort and the other things I've talked about. According to Rutherford's letter, it's dated July the 14th, 1776, and I'll read it. Honorable gentlemen, I'm under the necessity of setting you by express the alarming condition this country is in. The Indians is making great progress in destroying and murdering in the frontiers of this county. 37, I am informed, was killed last Wednesday and Thursday on the Catawba River. I am also informed that Colonel McDowell, 10 men more, and 120 women and children is besieged in some kind of a fort, and the Indians round them. No help to them before yesterday, and they were surrounded on Wednesday. I expect the next account to hear that they are all destroyed. Colonel Beckman is the frontier further in the frontier of this county. Pray, gentlemen, consider our distress. Send us plenty of powder, and I hope under God we of the Salisbury District is able to stand them. But if you allow us to go to the nation, I expect you will order the Hillsborough District to join the Salisbury District. Thereof our captains is killed and one wounded. This day I set out with what men I can raise for the relief of the district. And it's signed by General Griffith Rutherford. And the dates can be affixed by looking at a calendar from 1776. Rutherford's letter was dated the 14th of July, which in 1776 fell on a Sunday. Therefore, Rutherford's statement that McDowell was besieged in some kind of fort with no help to them before yesterday, and they were surrounded on Wednesday, would mean that they were surrounded on July the 10th, as in 1776 calendar, the 10th of July fell on a Wednesday. It's probable that the siege began sometime prior to that time, but this is the only documentation we have to go on to fix that date. So we will go with the 10th of July as when the siege of McDowell's was taking place here at the Quaker Meadows Fort. And the Battle of the Fork was on the 11th of July of '76. And Colonel McDowell, commander of the militia, had called out the militia and stationed the men at Davidson's Fort and Cathy's Fort to act as scouts and spies. Now, Davidson's Fort, of course, is where Old Fort is today. Cathy's Fort was along the Catawba River, just near where US 70 and US 221 intersect. If you go out Hankins Road about a mile, that's pretty much where we suspect the Cathy's Fort was. All of that was along the main road that traveled from Quaker Meadows up through Pleasant Gardens. The militia there at Davidson's were overwhelmed, and they started to retreat, and bringing in settlers with them. They made it to Cathy's Fort to begin to spend the night. That was their plan. They left out early in the morning from Cathy's Fort, headed to Quaker Meadows. And about 2 or so miles downriver from Cathy's Fort, the militia and the settlers they were guarding were ambushed by the Cherokee. The Revolutionary War pension application statement of Joseph McPeters gives a good account of the battle. And according to McPeters, marched as an Indian spy to Samuel Davison's Fort on the fork of the Catawba River, was stationed at said fort until July ensuing, when a body of Indians drove the spies from the said fort. They then retreated to Cathy's Fort, stayed at Cathy's Fort one night, and retreated from Cathy's Fort, met by the Indians at the North Fork of the Catawba River, and had a battle with the Indians, defeated the Indians. Captain White was killed in the battle, then marched on to the Quaker Meadows Fort, and was stationed at the Quaker Meadows Fort until reinforced by General Rutherford's army. Now, the Battle of the Fork was a significant action between the retreating militia and the Cherokee. Another account comes from Jonathan McPeters in his supporting statement found in the pension application of John Carson. And according to that, quote, said the next tour of service was at the upper fort on the Catawba, where we were stationed for some time in a ranging company under Captain Reuben White, who was killed in the Battle of the Fork on the 11th of July, 1776. Colonel Carson acted as an ensign. James McDowell, in his pension, gives another account. He said the company consisted of 82 men and was ordered by Major Daniel McKessick and Colonel Charles McDowell to march to Davison's Fort on the Catawba River, and was stationed at said fort as a guard to keep the Indians off the frontiers. When the first engagement, they met with the Indians, who lay in ambush at the North Fork of the Catawba River. They had a scrimmage with the Indians and defeated them, in which scrimmage Captain White was killed together with several others who were privates. We killed 14 Indians on the ground. He didn't mix his words. We killed 14 Indians on the ground. The relief of the Quaker Meadows Fort on the 13th of July. Said following the Battle of the Fork, the militia that had been stationed at Davidson's and Cathy's arrived at Quaker Meadows. They relieved the besieged men under McDowell's command. This was an initial relief. The siege in general probably continued until sufficient reinforcements from the Salisbury district under the command of Rutherford arrived. In his pension application, Joseph McPeters writes, then marched to the Quaker Meadows Fort and was stationed at Quaker Meadows Fort until reinforced by General Rutherford's army. And according to a letter in the records of the Secretary of State, which were transcribed and published in the Colonial Records of North Carolina, there's a letter that gives a really good description of what was going on. And this is dated Halifax, the 24th of July, 1776. This day we received a letter from Mr. Sharp, dated the 19th day of this instant, informing us that you had marched on the 18th to the frontiers of Rowan County at the head of 2,500 of the militia of your brigade. So help was on its way. 2,500 men coming from the Salisbury district, headed here towards Quaker Meadows and points west. And upon the arrival of such a large force that Rutherford had, the Cherokee broke the siege and retreated back across the mountains. Now, the conclusion to all this. So what was it like here in Burke County in July of 1776? I believe Samuel Hillis, in his Revolutionary War pension application, summed it all up. And in the words of Samuel Hillis, quote, we saw 4 children murdered and lying by the road, the children of a Mr. Birchfield, murdered by the Cherokee Indians. Another girl of the same Birchfield family was shot and left for dead, but recovered. Several bodies of murdered men were found before they arrived. When they first heard of the outrages committed by the Indians that caused this campaign, and they started from the meeting house and what men they could collect to relieve the people in the country where the Indians were murdering them. That's a pretty bleak picture of what was happening here in July of 1776. And we can be thankful today that we live in peace and safety. While we have our trials and concerns of today, when taken into account and in context of what our ancestors were dealing with 250 years ago, our troubles today kind of pale in comparison. We owe a debt to our ancestors that we can never fully repay. We can, with programs like this and celebrations like this, remember their sacrifices and ultimately secured to us the blessings of liberty. Thank you.
All right, with that being said, we'll move on to the next portion. There are 2 dates that are listed on the North Carolina flag. And you've probably seen them and wondered what they were. Well, this is what they were about. The first one is dated for May 20th, 1775, which is the Mecklenburg Declaration. And Nick, you would step forward and make that declaration. And before he gets here, just to put this in perspective, Cornwallis referred to this bunch as the Hornet's Nest.
This is only because Charles thought that I didn't have enough already to do, so, and now I gotta follow Bill Brown, who definitely no one wants to come up behind, so bear with me. The Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, Charlotte, North Carolina, May 20th, 1775. That whosoever directly or indirectly abetted or in any way, form, or manner countenance to unchartered and dangerous invasion of our rights as claimed by Great Britain is an enemy to this county, to America, and to the inherent and inalienable rights of man. We, the citizens of Mecklenburg County, do hereby dissolve the political bands which have connected us to the mother country, and hereby absolve ourselves from all allegiance to the British Crown, and abjure all political connection, contract, and association with that nation, who have wantonly trampled on our rights and liberties and inhumanely shed the innocent blood of American patriots at Lexington. We do hereby declare ourselves a free and independent people, are and of right ought to be a sovereign and self-governing association under the control of no power other than that of our God and the general government of the Congress, to the maintenance of which independence, civil and religious, we solemnly pledge to each other our mutual cooperation, our lives, our fortune, and our most sacred honor. As we now acknowledge the existence and control of no law or legal officers, civil or military, within this county, we do hereby ordain and adopt as a rule of life each and every of our former laws, wherein nevertheless the Crown of Great Britain never can be considered as holding rights, privileges, immunities, or authority therein. It is also further decreed that each and every military officer in this county is hereby reinstated in his former command and authority. He is acting comfortably to these regulations, and that every member present of this delegation shall henceforth be a civil officer, who is a justice of the peace in the character of a committeeman, to issue, process, hear, and determine all matters of controversy according to said adopted laws, to preserve peace, union, and harmony in said county, and to use every exertion to spread the love of country and fire of freedom throughout America, until a more general and organized government be established in this province. A selection from the members present shall constitute a committee of public safety for said county, that a copy of these resolutions be transmitted by express to the President of the Continental Congress assembled in Philadelphia, to be laid before that body. Thank you.
Now, as you've heard, the people of Mecklenburg County were ahead of their time almost a year before the Declaration of Independence. Then we have another group in this state, the folks down in Halifax, who had their resolves that they published just 3 months before independence. Dave, if you would, please read this.
Halifax resolves, April 16, 1776. The Select Committee taking into consideration the usurpations and violences attempted and committed by the King and Parliament of Britain against America, and the further measures to be taken for frustrating the same, and for the better defense of this province, reported as follows, to wit. It appears to your committee that pursuant to the plan concerted by the British Ministry for subjugating America, the King and Parliament of Great Britain have usurped a power over the persons and properties of the people, unlimited and uncontrolled, and disregarding their humble petitions for peace, liberty, and safety, have made diverse legislative acts denouncing war, famine, and every species of calamity daily employed in destroying the people and committing the most horrid devastations on the country. The governors in different colonies had declared protection to slaves who should imbrue their hands in the blood of their masters. That the ships belonging to America are declared prizes of war, and many of them have been violently seized and confiscated, in consequence of which multitudes of the people have been destroyed, or from easy circumstances reduced to the most lamentable distress. And whereas the moderation hitherto manifested by the United Colonies and their sincere desire to be reconciled to the mother country on constitutional principles have procured no mitigation of the aforesaid wrongs and usurpations, and no hopes remaining of obtaining redress by those means alone which have been hitherto tried. Your committee are of opinion that the House should enter into the following resolve, to wit. Resolve that the delegates for this colony in the Continental Congress be empowered to concur with the other delegates of the other colonies in declaring independency and forming foreign alliances, resolving to this colony the sole and exclusive right of forming a constitution and laws for this colony, and of appointing delegates from time to time under the direction of a general representation thereof to meet the delegates of the other colonies, for which purposes as shall be hereafter pointed out. And that was April 16, 1776. So we beat him again.
Next piece of legislation, each of you have a piece, some of you have a piece of paper. And these are the grievances against the king. They have a number at the top of them. When Bill gets to your grievance, he wants you to read it. All right, Bill?
I remember when I was in the first grade, we took a trip to Washington, D.C. and went to the National Archives. And I can remember like it was yesterday, standing there looking at that original copy of the Declaration of Independence, and my daddy reading the words of that declaration to me. In Congress, July the 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for lack and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing inevitably the same object, devises a design to reduce them under absolute deposition, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. Grievance number 1.
He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
Grievance number 2.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
Grievance number 3.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
Grievance number 4.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depositories of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
Grievance number 5.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
Grievance number 6.
He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
Grievance number 7.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land.
Grievance number 8.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers.
Grievance number 9.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
Grievance number 10.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
Grievance number 11.
He has kept among us in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislators.
Grievance number 12.
He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
Grievance number 13.
He has combined with others to subject us to jurisdictions foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of preventive legislation.
Grievance number 14.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us.
Grievance number 15.
For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment of any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states.
Grievance number 16.
For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world.
Grievance number 17.
For imposing taxes on us without our consent.
Grievance number 18.
For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury.
Grievance number 19.
For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses.
Grievance number 20.
For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
Grievance number 21.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamental reforms of our governments.
Grievance number 22.
For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
Grievance number 23.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
Grievance number 24.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
Grievance number 25.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation.
Grievance number 26.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executors of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
Grievance number 27.
He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress. In the most humble terms, our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and marginality, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to dissolve these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and our correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of congeniality. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have a right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Here, here. Now, some of you may have wondered why the flags we have here tonight, why they're here. And so we'll do a quick introduction of history. Most people associate the Betsy Ross flag with 1776. However, it did not come about until a year later from the time that the Declaration was signed. At the time, the flag of the colonies was this one. This is the Grand Union flag. As Bill has read the Declaration of Independence, before this, the colonists had believed and hoped that there would be some reconciliation with the Crown. However, after this declaration was made, that wasn't going to happen. Hence, the Betsy Ross flag came later to show that we truly had broken away. There was no longer a British ensign on our flag any longer. So if you would now please stand while we swear allegiance to our current flag. Okay, Eric, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, if you would take your program, another bit of history. The current national anthem that we have is a poem written by Francis Scott Key that did not come about until the War of 1812. At the time of the colonies, they decided to take the British national anthem, God Save the King, and they Americanized it and made My Country 'Tis of Thee. So we will sing all 4 verses, and I would encourage you to look at the words at the 4th verse when we get to them. Cindy, would you lead us?
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. My native country be, land of the noble free, thy name I love. I love thy rocks and rills, thy woods and templed hills, my heart with rapture thrills, like that above. Let music swell the breeze, and ring from all the trees sweet freedom song. Let mortal tongues awake, let all that breathe partake, let rocks their silence break, the sound prolong. Our fathers, God, to thee, author of liberty, to
at this time, we have a cake to cut. Robert, do you have cutlery?
I have come.
We will assemble in the dining room.
Okay, if you would, folks, let's step to the dining room.
We'll have to stand in rows.
One second.
Michelle, before I do though, I want to recognize that there are 4 of the 5 Colonel Alexander Erwin chapter presidents here that are Bill Wayne, Lee, Kevin Hancock, and Tom Mercer. So 5 of the presidents are here this year. And then we'll wait till.
Yeah.
British were weak.
Okay, on sheet 86, what list we have here?
2.
Right. You would step forward.
And I'm older, 3 months than her.
Okay.
Which way?
To face the crowd.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I need the youngest.
That should be easy.
Now, if you, hold on. If you would, I would like for you to pass your piece of cake to the youngest. The next generation, no, that's fine. The next generation taking this role going forward. So, thank you all. We would take some seats. We have one last part of the program. I'll ring this bell a couple of times and then I'll tell you why. For those of you that may wonder, tonight would not be possible without a few individuals that we need to recognize. So, with that being said, I'm going to read the name of the person here, the patriot that made that possible. For myself, Andrew Garinger, North Carolina. For my wife, Kelly Woody Conrad Crump, Hesse, Germany, North Carolina. Nick Anderson, Stephen Cochran, Pennsylvania. Debbie Anderson, James Morrow, North Carolina. Scott Lester, Francis Howard, Maryland. Tom Lesser, David Newell, Massachusetts. John Lafferty, who couldn't attend tonight. John Harden, North Carolina. Bill Brown, Joseph Dobson, North Carolina. Rebecca Heacock, I think we all know. Charles McDowell, North Carolina. Kevin Alec, Ute Perkins, North Carolina. Bryant Lindsay, Arthur Sladen Sr., Virginia. Robert Patton IV. Anyone want to take a guess? Patton, North Carolina. Roger Austin, Edward Cook, North Carolina. Cindy Wisner, Daniel Sipes, Maryland. Andrea Kaiser, Howard Duckworth, North Carolina. Laura Puff, William McPherson, New Hampshire. David Dowdy, Matthews House, Maryland. Linda Lindsay, William Farr, North Carolina. Farrar, sorry. And then finally, Kevin Hancock, James Laws of Massachusetts. Without these folks, today wouldn't have happened. So think about that when you leave, about the folks that didn't get recognized that should have been. While England was the most common origin of America's beginning, in 1776 there were sizable populations of people with Scottish, Irish, Dutch, French, German, Scandinavian, Spanish, and African ancestry. Indeed, while New England was much less diverse, in the middle and southern colonies, people were primarily English ancestry, comprised only about 40% of the population. What led to the Revolutionary War, and what sustained the American cause through its duration, was a commitment to traditions and ideas that arose in a specific historic context but had the potential for a broad, even universal application. Two of those ideas were freedom and self-government, where related but distinct principles for which American patriots were willing to combat a world-spanning empire. Quote, "My first wish is for America to be free," said by John Penn. Anybody want to tell me who John Penn is? John Penn is one of our signers from North Carolina that signed the Declaration of Independence and is buried at Guilford Courthouse. Like many other North Carolinians in 1770, Penn was a native Virginian who had headed south in pursuit of freedom. North Carolina was comparatively lax in enforcing conformity and collecting taxes. I kind of made that something I would find advantageous too, as well as greater economic opportunity. The land was cheap, so he came to North Carolina. In particular, a particular incident seems to have motivated his move. Penn, a lawyer, had been complaining publicly about Parliament taxing the colonies without their consent. That is, without having their own elected representation in the body. According to family lore, someone reported Penn to the local authorities. He was charged and convicted of making disrespectful remarks about the king and crown. A Virginia judge ordered him to pay a nominal fine of 1 penny. But there's a little bit of a fly in the ointment there because Penn refused. Other members of his family had already moved to what was now Vance County, North Carolina, in the eastern part of the state. He packed up and he joined them. Can you spot both the principles in question here? Penn was speaking in favor of self-government, that people living in a community ought to enjoy the civil right to help select those who populate and run its government's institutions. But his personal freedom to express those views was a natural right, one that the civil authority had violated. These ideas have been expressed eloquently in English, but they're far older in roots. The Greek philosopher Aristotle, for example, distinguished between two conceptions of liberty: a civic one that was, quote, for all to rule and be ruled in turn, end quote, and a personal one, that a man should live as he likes. Both sets of rights were and are important, and of course neither has been consistently defended or advanced, including here in America. At the time of the founding, most Americans could not vote, and colonial governments imposed a range of restrictions, which many of you read tonight, some of those restrictions. My favorite, of course, was the one where they would load you on a ship and ship you all the way back to England to try you. And so there were many freedoms they did not enjoy. Now you might say, when this came about, why was it so important that we have the Declaration of Independence? Were we at war at this time? Yes, we were. Washington's primary direct writings concerning the Declaration is in his General Order issued on July 9, 1776, issued from his headquarters in New York. In these orders, he formally announced the Declaration to the Continental Army and that it be read aloud to the troops. Key excerpts from those general orders are that Washington informed the Army that Congress had dissolved the connection between the colonies and Great Britain and declared that the United Colonies of North America to be free and independent states. He ordered the Declaration be proclaimed with an audible voice so that every officer and soldier could hear it. This was a significant morale-boosting moment. After the reading, crowds in New York tore down the statue of King George III. Anybody want to guess what they made with that statue?
Bullets.
Bullets. Samuel Bletchley Webb, aide to Washington, wrote in his journal that day, quote, "Agreeable to this day's orders, the Declaration of Independence was read at the head of each brigade and was received with three, what word, Robert? Huzzah! From the troops. Everyone seemed highly pleased that we were separated from the king who was endeavored to enslave us his once loyal subjects. God grant us success in this new character." Caleb Clapp, a young ensign from Massachusetts, in his diary wrote, quote, "The day of Declaration of the Independent States of America was read at the head of the brigade, after which the soldiers sang psalms, their chaplain offered a prayer, and the whole gave 3 cheers." With that in mind, I want you to keep this quote in the back of your head. From time to time, things like that come up. But remember, the future is purchased by the present. Our next 250 years begins with our efforts today. Make sure that the next generation knows what our country's about, what we're fighting for, and most importantly, what separates us from the rest of the world. So I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I hope everyone's had a good time. We have 2 last things to do. One, it's been requested that everyone step out this back door and make our way around to the porch.
We can go out this door.
Okay, well, either way, make your way to the porch. They'd like to get a photo. But when you get done, we have 2 activities to do before the fireworks start. And you might say fireworks. A lot of folks will be setting up chairs down in the front corner, close to the road, so they can see Freedom Park, where the fireworks will be going off at. But while we're doing that, take your chance to go chunk a tomato out here at King George. Okay? But also, back in the bathroom and office area, there is pen and ink. Take the time to sign your name. And if you know your patriot's name, put his or her name there as well. All right, thank you for coming. Everyone can make their way to the front porch. Oh, I forgot.
Everybody have
Glass.
their glass full. If not, we will come around and give you a full glass because we'd like to make a toast.
Again.
Yep.
Okay, so to the patriots of '76, especially the ones of the Southern Campaign who are often overlooked. May their names never be forgotten, and may their descendants always remember the price they paid for liberty.
Huzzah!
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 Huzzah!